Me to introduce myself. My name is Francis T. Nichols, and I was the colonel in command of the 2nd Louisiana Brigade, Stonewall's Division, Army in Northern Virginia. We were part of the famous Stonewall's Foot Cavalry. It's hard to know how many engagements we saw. As I say, we missed 1st Manassas, but after that we were present in almost every major encounter in the Eastern Theater. As I mentioned before, we were part of Jackson's brigade, so we spent many months up and down the Shenandoah Valley. We rejoined the main army, and we were present for the battle at Sharpsburg. We were present at Fredericksburg. We were present at Chancellorsville, where we fought very bravely. 2nd Manassas, where we fought at the railroad cut. That action was so intense that the boys actually ran out of ammunition. And we fought with rocks and sticks for almost 20 minutes, waiting to be relieved because we were ordered not to fall back from our position. We were present at Gettysburg. We were at the left wing of the Union, or my apologies, we were at the right wing of the Union Army facing the troops on top of Culp's Hill. Never did take that hill. We've always regretted that, I'm sorry to say. I'm quite confident that that engagement would have had a dramatically different outcome had we been able to take that damn hill. Condition of my boys at Appomattox was appalling. My brigade, which had once numbered in the thousands, was down to about 365 men. Most of them were wearing rags. There probably wasn't a dozen pair of shoes between them. They hadn't eaten a full meal in days. And yet these boys were ready to continue fighting without question. In fact, I would go so far as to say when word came down that the general had decided to surrender, the disappointment that ran through our camp was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. Well, to be quite honest, that's a hard question to answer. None of the battles were what you'd call enjoyable. But if I had to pick one, it was the wilderness. That was a damnable place. You couldn't see 20 yards in front of you. Nothing but thick underbrush and bushes and overgrown trees and thickets, and when the cannons set that on fire, it was filled with smoke, just choking black smoke. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and yet we had to fight in that. And fought in it we did for an entire day. It's an action I would not be anxious to repeat. I remember this time just after the Battle of Fredericksburg in early 1863 during the winter, when the boys engaged in a snowball fight. We were camped outside of Fredericksburg on the Rappahannock, and they had been stuck in camp for weeks. It was boring, it was very tedious, there was nothing to do but train. And as I say, one day they engaged in a snowball fight. It seems like a rather minor thing, you'd think. It's something children do. But this snowball fight just began to grow and grow and eventually took on a life of its own. I want you to know now, by the time this snowball fight was at its peak, it entailed fully 4 regiments of infantry, complete with officers on horseback, commanding charges, leading defense. It was as if they were conducting a campaign out there in the white. The snowball fight went on for several hours. There were a few injuries from it, as I recollect. But the boys didn't care. It was the first time in weeks that they'd been able to just outright relieve the tension and the tedium and have fun. And it was a sight to behold. I had an acquaintanceship with quite a few of the men of the 2nd Brigade. After the war, many of them moved on. Many of them died. Many of the survivors went west. Don't see so many of them these days as we used to before the war. And the numbers getting smaller and smaller. Pretty much these reunions is the only time we actually see each other at all anymore. Except for a few folks that live right around us. But these reunions are becoming the only time we have much cause to get together any longer, and their number dwindles year by year.